We're starting off our second ever live stream on the channel. And of course, if you watched last weekend with Martin Popoff and a bunch of other friends of ours, we did the ranking the Rush albums on a tier list video. And this time we've narrowed the team down a little bit, but we've got two super cool dudes here, and we're talking about Genesis. And so let's just get right into it. So I'm Cody. We got Lauren Murphy.
Hey.
What's up, Lauren? And then we got Phil Jones.
Hey.
And so basically, we're going to be taking turns to rank the Genesis catalog. Okay, so basically, I'm going to get Lauren to start, and then it'll be Phil, and then it'll be my turn. So like that's just how we'll go. We'll take turns until we get through the entire discography.
Okay.
All right, let's roll.
All right, we're spinning.
What do I got?
Duke.
Duke. Okay. Well, I love Duke. It was the album that was current when I became a fan of the band. I was only 8 years old. 7 years old. My older brother had it, and I got right into it. Well, I got right into the band because of Nursery Cryme, but Duke was the new album, and I still love it. It's still got my favorite song they've ever done, which is Duchess. And I would have to put it in the top. This is my Charisma 1983.
Nice one.
This is the unique mastering. It's the best sounding version I've ever heard, including the vinyl. Because the vinyl, it's a long album, so the vinyl's a bit stretched, I think. But that's a really, really cool version of that album, Charisma, before they joined with Virgin.
Awesome.
CD. So I love Duke. I think the suite is amazing.
Me too.
It's got one or two, that aren't great, but it has Heat Haze. It's got Duke's Travels. It's got Cul-de-sac. Alone Tonight kind of sucks, but mostly I think it's a great album. I have to put it in the top because it sounds amazing.
Which one sucks?
Alone Tonight.
Alone Tonight. Right on. I love every song on that album, so yeah. Is that
S?
That's what I thought. I love that album. I like every song. I even like Please Don't Ask.
That's a nice song.
All right, so it'll be Phil's turn.
Did Green Day get their inspiration for Dookie, their album art? I don't know. I get like a spin-off.
Maybe. Could be. That invisible voice that you guys all hear, if you remember from last time, that's actually George, the guy who is manning the entire Zoom operation because I suck at it, and he's just a great, cool dude. And he's super into doing stuff like this. Thanks, George. So did you spin the wheel for Phil?
No, I'm going to spin that right now. And we got...
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you gave me a good one because I love that album. And actually, the very first Genesis song I ever heard was "Counting Out Time."
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And I can still remember it. I went over to my buddy's house, and he goes, "Oh, come on downstairs." His stereo was downstairs, and he had two older brothers, so they, his older brothers had all the cool records, and so he goes, "I want you to hear something." And so he put on "Counting Out Time," and he gave me the insert with all the lyrics on it. He always goes, "You got to read the lyrics as it's going along," And I was like, "Yeah, that's like really funny," and and it was really I really got a kick out of it. And being of that age, it was like, ooh, kind of naughty as well.
Yeah.
And So that was my first. That was my first one. I couldn't tell you what the second song I heard was, but I remembered the first one. And there are there's a few things later on in the album that don't grab me as much, but the first two sides, I mean, that's just pure heaven for me. I mean, the Chamber of 32 Doors, oh my God, like that song just, it gives me chills every time I hear it. And so anyway, yeah, I love the Lamb. I unfortunately, even though I'm a little bit older than you guys, I wish I was a couple of years older so I would have been able to, so that I was into them and would have been able to see the tour. Because when the first time I heard that song, it was probably 76. So Gabriel had already left. And I'd never heard of them before that. So it would have been that's one of, we've all got our, I really regret that I didn't get to see this band or this tour. That's definitely one of them for me.
That's me with Rush.
Yeah, see?
That hurts, man.
Yeah, I know. I saw Rush on the Farewell to Kings tour. That was my first one. So
what? Wow.
Yeah. But my buddy, the guy that played me Counting Out Time, he saw them on the 2012 tour. So it's all relative. We've all seen things that we wish or that our friends, have seen and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah.
I love Counting Out Time, especially the lyric where he says, "I'll get my money back from the bookstore right away."
Yeah.
He had a quirky sense of humor.
Yeah. And the live version of, I love live albums. I don't know if live albums are going to be part of our little exercise today, but I will listen to a live album 90% of the time over a studio album.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about Genesis is there's a bunch of really good quality boots out there that you can get. And some of the shows on the 76 tour they're fantastic sounding. And the lamb stew that they do on that, where they do the instrumental version of Fly on a Windshield, just fantastic. Just fantastic. Yeah.
It is. And they also they pulled out a couple of rarities on that tour. They did White Mountain. With Phil singing White Mountain, and that's a great set list. I love Trick of the Tail tour.
Yeah.
Well, to elaborate on the Lamb and that song in particular, so I hear the guitar solo in that. It's like, what the hell is he playing in that song? So I interviewed Steve Hackett about 2 years ago, and one of the questions I had to ask him was, "What is that? What is that you're playing in that solo?" And he said that was a really cheesy instrument that they had back in the 70s. I know Pink Floyd used to use one of these too. It was called a synthy hi-fly.
Oh.
And they're almost unheard of in this day and age. But they were a brief kind of come and go thing that came out in the early 70s. But the Genesis guys and Pink Floyd used one numerous times way back too. And but basically Steve Hackett, just like, that was kind of like the one and only time that they used it was for that solo, just because it made a wonky sound, right? But
does the guy in the musical box have the same thing? Because I know they're all into vintage gear and all that. Does he use the same pedal or effect?
That I don't know, but it's probable.
Yeah. Have you seen the musical box do the Lamb?
Yeah.
I didn't do the Lamb.
Massey Hall.
Yeah. I saw him. Amazing. Yeah, it wasn't Massey Hall, but anyway, yeah. And they did a fantastic job, and seems how I love that album. I was just, yeah. Anyway.
Excellent album.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move forward. George, you can give her a spinny spin. Oh wait,
sorry. What was the final verdict for the placement of that one?
Oh, sorry. That's up at the top for me. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to tell. Like the top A is like top kind of, and then S is just exceptionally top. So
okay.
I just want to make sure. And there we go.
That's an exceptionally top album. Okay. I put it in my A tier, right? But I was like, I wouldn't be pissed if these guys moved any of my A tier albums up to the S. So one thing I should also clarify is that everyone can take one of their turns and take an album that's already on the board, and they can move it to a different position. But you can only do it one time per person.
Okay.
All right. So George, have we spun?
No, I'm spinning now.
Cool. Oh yes, this is my favorite Genesis album. Oh man, this is going straight up to the S tier, all the way up. Man, I love this record. Oh my god, I will sit behind a kit and I will play you every song on this album behind a drum kit, and I'll play every song on this album. I just love everything about this. I didn't even have to listen to this before the video to see where it would rank. I just knew it was going. It's my number one, and I just love this record. First the Fifth, Cinema Show, Dancing with the Moonlit Night, The Battle of Epping Forest. I mean, that's the one song that even the guys in the band don't like very much, and I just think it's amazing. I think that's such a awesome track, and all the way, like the rhythms in that song, the way they just change time signature so much, and they change the whole feel over like 11 minutes. And that crazy outro that they do where it changes from like 7/8 to like 6/8 and just kind of keeps going back and forth. Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I must admit, Epping Forest is I like it, but it's not one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I respect that.
I love Epping Forest, but I can recognize its flaws. If you've ever heard the Selling England Sessions bootleg, where from the studio when they were working on it, and you hear the instrumental version of the backing track they were working on for Epping Forest, you hear how strong that song was going to be until Gabriel came in with 10,000 words, tried to fit them all into X number of bars. But I love it, but it's a flawed masterpiece, that song.
Yeah. See, yeah, Moonlit Night for me is the big one. Oh God,
Yeah,
that song. I love that song. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that middle section with the sort of Mahavishnu sort of vibes to it. Very, very cool.
Amazing. It's amazing. Did you guys get to see Steve Hackett's band play that album live in its entirety?
Was that the last time he came around?
No. This is 4 years ago, 2019.
Yeah, I did.
You saw him do that? It was at the Oakville Center.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I did. Yeah, because I was at that show at the Oakville Center. Yeah.
So we were all there, but we were not there together. And it's only 1,000 seats.
Oh yeah.
I saw him do that both nights. That's how much I love Steve and that album. I did it. I went both nights to both of the shows he did.
Yeah.
Epic.
I've seen him a bunch of times. And I've seen him do most of the stuff before. So it's just hard to, and I've got a crappy memory to begin with anyway. So I'm going, yeah, did I see that one? I think I did, but I've seen him do all these songs before, or most of them before.
Yeah.
I've seen him 7 times. It's going on 8 now whenever he comes back around. So yeah, and I'm with you. I've seen him 1,000 times now too.
Yeah, I only missed him last time he came here because he was just here like a month and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was away on vacation, which is why I didn't go.
And yeah, but that was yes, that was at Massey Hall. I was there.
It was a Massey Hall. Yeah. I couldn't go. Yeah.
It was awesome. He played this album. He played Foxtrot.
Right. That's right. It was the Foxtrot show. That's right. Yeah.
He was fantastic. It was so great. All right. So we'll turn it back over to Lorne now, and we'll spin the wheel, Mr. George, if you can. Is my microphone is it distorting on your guys' end, or does it sound okay?
It's okay for me.
Sounds fine.
Cool. You guys sound good too. All right, George, let's give her a spin.
Okay. Yeah, you guys get the Lamb and Selling England. Well, I actually, I was in grade 9 when Visible Touch came out, where it came out the summer between grade 8 and grade 9. So it was pretty huge for me and my friends, us watching the Land of Confusion video and all, getting into it. And I was a big Genesis fan. Everyone else sort of was, because that's when they were at their most popular. You couldn't escape them on the radio. Not just them, but Peter Gabriel, Mike and the Mechanics, even Steve Hackett was on there for a while with GTR.
Some guy named Phil Collins too, right?
Who's that? No. Oh yeah, him. Yeah, Take Me Home and all that. But so Invisible Touch, I have sort of a soft spot for a lot of the songs in it. I love the Brazilian. I think that's a killer track. I think Domino's a great track. And I think the full version of Tonight, Tonight, Tonight is a great track. The rest of it, it's okay. It's not top tier. I think they did a really good job with it for 1986. That's what radio wanted then. But it's not The Lamb or Selling England, is it? So
not quite, but it is a good album. I'm one of the Genesis fans like you, Lauren. I love all the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Even this album.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot for me. Especially the title track. That was just so far removed from the Genesis that I grew up with and loved. I was just like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
And so, I'll agree with Domino and the Brazilian. I like those. I even like Throwing It All Away. I do like that song. I do.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, and Tonight, that one doesn't do anything for me either. Land of Confusion. I've always been kind of on the fence with that one. I must admit I didn't think much of the video when it came out. But other than, like I say, Domino, Brazilian, and even Thrown It All Away, I could do without that one myself.
Come on, Phil. You don't get in your car, drive down the road on a rainy night, and just be like, "All that time I was searching,
no,
where to run to."
A place where I used to work, it was about a 25-minute, half-hour drive, and I would put on. There'd be a lot of times when I put on Supper's Ready off Seconds Out, and I could put it on when I'm pulling out of the driveway, and it'd be finishing almost at work. And it made the drive so much better.
Oh, I love that. So, Lauren, where do you want to put the album?
I would put it in B, which is the third one, right?
Yeah, B is the third one. B is the center.
It's well done, but it's not one of my favorites overall. If I have to rank them, which apparently I do. So
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But I do like it, and I think they left off a couple of good tracks too. Do the Neurotic is a pretty great instrumental piece, but good.
That's a good point. They left off one of my favorite Genesis songs. Now, I like heavier music, right? And this is not really a super heavy song, but it is kind of heavy song. They did a song called Feeding the Fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the B-side to I forget what song, but it was a B-side recorded during the Invisible Touch, and they left In Too Deep on the album in place of this song. With like Feeding the Fire could have been a massive rock hit, number one. I mean, I like In Too Deep, but that doesn't matter. Feeding the Fire, that song that's a heavy tune.
Yeah, but what you wouldn't know because you weren't there at the time is that In Too Deep was in a very successful movie. It was written for a movie, and Phil wrote it.
I'm trying to think of what the movie was.
It was called Mona Lisa Smile, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I remember that now that you've mentioned the name. Yeah.
But at the time, it was really big and very popular on AM radio with the soccer moms and the you know, the dentist
Yeah.
reception.
See, I can understand, even though I don't like it that much, I can understand why it was big and why it was popular. You know, I do get it. You know, it wasn't my cup of tea, so to speak, but I do get why other people liked it. So,
And it's one of those you got to kind of think about what was happening at the time, right?
Well, you definitely do.
yeah.
1986 was just when their time came to be successful, because they always sort of tried now and then. They just weren't as good at it. You know, they tried when they did I Know What I Like, and they thought they were going to get a big hit with Your Own Special Way and blah, blah, blah. But they finally.
First song on the album.
What?
Ended up being one of my least favorite songs on that album, Your Own
Oh,
Special
yeah.
Way.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So, Mr. Phil.
Okay.
So we're gonna spin the wheel, Mr. Joe.
Yeah, spin the wheel.
And we are spinning.
Oh, the Shapes album?
Yeah.
I don't mind this album. I prefer it way more than Invisible Touch. You know, Mama gets a lot of flack. I like that song.
I love it. Dude.
That's All gets a lot of flack. I like that song. See, That's All to me is kind of in the same category as Throwing It All Away. You know, old school Genesis fans don't like the pop direction they went, but to me, That's All it's a great pop song, you know. And I mean, if it was done by anybody else other than Genesis, you know, everybody would have loved it without, you know, crapping all over it. You know what I mean? But you know, old school Genesis fans don't like that one. Personally, I like that song. You know, Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea. I love that. I think that's fantastic because it you know, it's a long whatever it is, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, whatever it is, and it's relatively simple in its, you know, it just, you know, a single note just going with keyboards going over and stuff like that. It's not like the old Genesis, but it's still, to me, that reminds me of the old Genesis that I really like, for me. Illegal Alien gets a hard time. I always liked that song. I always thought it was funny.
It is. It's hilarious.
I don't mind that song at all, and I even didn't mind the video. Taking It All Too Hard, yeah, I'm not. That one's okay. And then the rest of them, even It's Gonna Get Better. I don't mind that one either. It's not my favorite on the album, but you know, but overall, that album surprised me when it came out and I listened to it, because at that point I was no longer anticipating Genesis releases when they came out, because they'd already started moving away from, you know, from what I was into. But you know, eventually you would hear stuff. So I mean, I didn't you know, I didn't actively go out and go, oh, new Genesis album, got to go buy it. But when I heard it, it's like, yeah, okay, I like this. I do like it. It's nothing like the Genesis that I really love, which is the, you know, right up until Steve left period, basically. But I do like that album. I do.
I do too. I agree that I think it's the best post Duke album. I think.
Yeah, I would say that too. Yeah.
I think Home by the Sea is amazing, but Silver Rainbow is the little hidden gem for me on that one. And that it's funny because when they were putting together the second archive box set in 2000, Phil, in his terrible memory, they were listening to some of the songs that were going to go on it, and Phil got to Silver Rainbow, and he called up Tony Banks. He said, "Oh, this is a great song. I haven't listened to this since we recorded it. That's got to go on the box set." And Tony Banks said, "Well, that's already been on an album, Phil. Like, that's not, you know, it's not a rarity." And Phil,
Wow.
"Oh, Okay, too
I'm glad I'm not the only Phil with a bad memory.
bad. His is really bad. But I just wanted to quickly show my little 3-inch single Mama CD single for people that remember these.
That's one.
This is actually the 2 songs on here, Mama. This is the only way you can get the full long version of Mama, like the 8-minute one or whatever it is.
Oh.
They put that out in the box set. They put out an extended version of that too, I believe.
They did, but it's not as long as this one. And likewise, it's going to get better is also the longer version on this one. This is the only place you can get those 2 tracks officially.
You can't listen to them anyway because no one's got those CD players to play those, right?
I do.
You have a mini disc player?
I just have a regular Blu-ray player, but it's got the little spot for the 3-inch CDs. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be right over to just grab that off you. Then you don't live far from me either.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so where are we going to put that album?
I'm going to put that in the second tier.
In the A?
Yeah, I can't see what the letters are. It's too small on my screen. But yeah, the second one from the top, the second one down.
That's where I had it. And I have a little kind of tier list that I'm going to be going by too. And that's where I had it as well, was in the A tier.
All right. Spin.
All right. Spin, spin, spin by the hair of my chin.
And we got Wind in
Nice. S tier. I love this album.
Oh, yeah.
You like it, Phil?
Oh, dude, I love that album.
Okay.
Now, except for Your Own Special Way, which, I now correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the one off Spot the Pigeon,
Inside and Out.
Inside and Out, wasn't that an outtake from the Wind sessions?
Yes, all 3 of those songs on Spot the
Yeah,
Pigeon.
so Inside and Out should have been on instead of Your Own Special Way.
Agreed. And,
Your Own Special Way is a nice song, but it's like,
I would have been cool even if they had to put the song, the Spot the Pigeon song in place with the
not the
whatever
Match of the Day. That one, yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah.
But no, I really like this album too. And Your Own Special Way is not bad, but it is the weakest moment on the album. Now that's the kind of precursor to Follow You, Follow Me, which we'll get to later. But I really like this album. All in a Mouse's Night, Blood on the Rooftops. I saw Steve, I mean, I guess you did too, probably Phil. I saw Steve play this album, most of it, a couple years ago. And that was March 2nd, 2017. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of shows now. And that's one of the best ones that I've ever seen. It was so good. And I think he did 11th Earl of Mar. And he did In That Quiet Earth and Afterglow too. Oh man, that album is
and I must admit I've never understood, because I see people that say that All in a Mouse's Night or What Gorilla are weak songs on that album. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. I mean, All in a Mouse's Night has kind of got it's got the goofy lyrics, or the kind of, cartoonish story behind it.
Yeah, but that's what they did back then.
But I find it funny. And I mean, I just love, and the closing section of that song. Oh God, it's
Steve
just
solo.
Was it, I think it was, did the Musical Box do that? Remember when the Musical Box did their tour of the post Gabriel stuff a few years back? Didn't they throw in the closing section of All in the Mouse's Night, or am I thinking of a different Genesis tribute that I saw?
I never saw them do anything post Lamb, so I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, they did.
No, I didn't see them.
Oh yeah.
I actually saw it on the night that Neil Peart passed away. We were on our way to was it Toronto? Yeah, it was Toronto.
Oh,
on the way there, and when my friend texted me saying Neil Peart passed away, I was like, "You're kidding! anyway, that's the story for another time. But
Yeah.
yes, so that was what they didn't do any of the costumes. They just played the Genesis music as is. He did like one or two costumes near the end of the show, but for the most part, it was just the band totally stripped down.
Yeah.
Uh, it was,
And it contains my favorite Genesis song of all time, which is One for the Vine.
yes,
Oh God, you know,
incredible song.
that's one of my desert island songs, you know, you
See,
know,
for me,
and if sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, like, I love the middle section of One for the Vine. That's classic Genesis. But I
You know,
find the song section is a little bit dull for me. I
oh
find it,
really?
yeah, it's
Oh.
okay. I just find it a little dreary.
You know, if you listen to some of the 77 bootlegs, and the one from Zurich is my favorite bootleg
Mhm.
from 77. There's a version that's out there. I don't know if it's on YouTube anymore. And it was somebody did a matrix of a soundboard recording and a really good audience recording. And so you've got crowd noise, but I mean it sounds like seconds out.
Mhm.
And the version of One for the Vine on there, oh man, I'm telling you, it just, oh yeah, I just love that song. Just
But
love
I
it.
do agree about All in a Mouse's Night when people criticize that one. And to me, it's just exactly this kind of song they were doing all throughout the 70s.
It's
If you
like
think about
Yeah.
their quirky fantasy stories, you know, it's dramatic too. It's got the alternating verses between the when the mouse is speaking and when the cat is speaking, and
Yeah.
it's you know, how is that any different from Robbery, Assault and Battery or Harold the Barrel or
and Utility in the
The
Car.
Lamb? Like, you know, like it was
The
Yeah.
one
Great
Get
track.
Them Out by Friday.
Get 'em up by Friday, yeah.
Liken it to that too, right?
Yeah.
It's my sad duty to inform you. um, so I'm so lost. Bill, that was yours, right? No, that was mine.
No, that was yours.
That was mine. Okay. So next up, yeah, S tier for that, straight up, no questions. Lauren.
Okay. Spin.
Spinny spin spin.
Give me a good one.
That won't be hard.
Oh, you did give me a good one.
This is the one that Phil wanted, I'm sure.
This is the album that set off my lifelong love affair with music. When I was a kid, this is my brother's 13 years older than me, and I used to go through his records when he would go out with his friends, and I was only 7 years old, you know. And I was used to seeing, you know, he had Kiss, and I was like, oh, cool. Look at them all standing on the fiery mountain, you know, or he had Elton John or he had Queen. And then I came across Nursery Cryme, and I was like, what the is this? You know, like it was this weird Victorian art and heads on the ground, severed heads, and then I took out the vinyl, and even the vinyl looked different because I was so used to albums that had 5 3-minute songs on both sides. So all the bands on the record
We're
were the
close.
same. And this one, it was like this huge band, and then a little tiny one, and then another big one. And so I put it on, and Musical Box started, and here we are 43 years later. It's still one of my absolute favorite albums of all time. All of the songs too, not just the big ones. I love Seven Stones, I love Harlequin, Fountain of Salmacis, Hogweed. Killer album,
Yeah.
and hugely important in their career. So
Yeah.
easily top tier.
Yeah.
Well, that to me is where Genesis started. I know people will say Trespass. I don't think Trespass is as good as this. This is when they locked down the Steve Hackett, Phil Collins, so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
They got the lineup. They have it here. This is the album where it starts. And
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the Musical Box, and I mean Hogweed.
Mhm.
yeah,
I love Hogweed. That is such a great song, especially, you know, the live version off the first live album.
Mhm.
I remember me and my brother just listening to that first live album countless times.
Oh
And
yeah.
oh, it's only got what, 5 songs on it, which is criminal. It should have been a double. There's no way, it should have been just a single. But anyway,
Yeah.
The
but
Yes
yeah,
songs have made it a triple.
what's that? Sorry.
I said they could have made it a Yes songs or made it a triple, right?
Yeah, really. And I was lucky enough that the first time I saw them was on and then there were 3 tour, and they did Fountain of Salmacis on that tour.
Mhm.
And I remember that, and it was like, wow, they're playing that, really?
Yeah.
Because and that was back in the day before the internet, so I don't know what the set list is going to be. It's a total surprise, right?
Yeah.
So
I got reintroduced to the Fountain of Salmacis pretty recently in the last year. I had played with some Genesis guys temporarily, and one of the songs that they did was the Fountain of Salmacis or Salmacis. I don't know how to say it, but my God, that song! I hadn't heard it for a long time, and I came back to it. It's like, oh man, this song is just perfect. It's just like it's got everything. It's the dynamics. It's got the quiet. It's got the heavy. It's got the crazy drum things. Oh, it's just
It's very classical inspired in places too.
perfect inspired. That's what it is.
yeah. And we're lucky too. There's that the video you can get on YouTube, the Belgium TV special.
Yeah.
Where that's one of the songs they play on that one there, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, really, really cool to see them at that time.
Yeah, when Gabriel hadn't even started dressing up or anything yet.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
still kind of shy and wasn't sure what to do, and yeah, that was really cool, that video.
yeah.
If you got to see Genesis play that song in any capacity, whether it was the Phil Collins era or the Phil Collins and Steve Hackett era or the Gabriel era, the fact that anyone got to see that live is epic, because as soon as 1980 hit, that thing was out of that set list. Like
Well, it had been out of the set list for years before 1978 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they brought it back briefly, right? But then
Yeah.
if you look at the set lists of Genesis, I know because my parents saw Genesis numerous times. My mom saw them once. My dad saw them 12 times, dating back to 1973. And I look at some of the set lists and download some of the bootlegs, right? And my mom saw Genesis in 81 at the X in Toronto. And the set list literally goes from Supper's Ready to Paper Late. Like side by side. It's like, oh wow, okay, all right. That's bold.
they win over the audience with Supper's Ready, and then they can really hit them with Paper Late.
Yeah, Paper Late. That amazing song.
Yeah. Not
That's
pretty low on my list, let me tell you. That's not my.
It actually has a pretty good groove to it. It's not a great song overall, but it does groove at least.
You know who's playing drums on that? Of course, it's got a good groove.
Well, yeah, I know, but
I know. I'm just playing. I actually have the 45 of that. I have the 45, which is like the 3x3 45. It's got You Might Recall, Paper Late,
and Virgil.
Oh, with them jumping on the cover,
Yeah, they're doing the Beatles,
yeah.
the Beatles thing.
Yeah.
I meant to pull it out, but I don't have it here. So, but I
Oh,
do have it.
don't do that. Oh, the final, right? Okay.
Is it my turn now? I think it's my turn. Phil, was that?
No, actually, I think it's me now. I think it's me.
Phil's turn.
Because you just
Don't
did
mind
Winter
me.
Wuthering. You stole one of mine.
Don't mind me. I'll just sit back. Give her a spin there, George.
But that one was that last one was
Well, the last one was Lauren. That was Nursery Cryme.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
All right. So we're spinning.
The viewers can see it spinning, but we can't.
And we can't dance as well.
Oh,
There you go.
wow. Yeah, I remember well when this came out.
I know what my next turn is going to be already.
I don't necessarily hate this album. But it's not Wind and Wuthering. I do like No Son of Mine. I do like Driving the Last Spike. I do like Fading Lights. But Jesus, He Knows Me. No, that doesn't work for me at all. Hold On My Heart. Ugh. No, that's just a big no for me personally. Those three songs, No Son of Mine, Driving the Last Bike, and Fading Lights, are the only ones off that album that I will ever listen to.
So no love for Since I Lost You, Phil?
Honestly, off the top of my head, I know I've heard it, but I couldn't tell you anything about how it goes.
It's the song that they wrote for Eric Clapton's son, who had just died around the time.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, he fell out a window. He was only like 40
I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah.
I nearly fell out a window when I heard that song, though. Oh man, that's
the thing about that album for me is
great tune.
It was the CD era finally for them, and they just threw almost everything onto it. So it's really long and it's a bit bloated. There's 4 or 5 tracks you could easily lose from that album. But the other thing is, as they often did, they left off one of the best songs, which is a song called On the Shoreline.
Yeah.
Which could have opened the album and with it, because it's got a long dramatic intro instead of No Son of Mine, which could be anywhere on the album. But
yeah, I have now that you mentioned that song, I have heard that one, on YouTube at some point over the last number of years. Couldn't tell you how it goes, but I do know I've heard it before.
It's a good one. That was my Skydome ticket.
Oh,
June 92. Were you at that one, Phil?
No,
you had already stopped by then.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
So since everybody on the panel here has seen Genesis in one form or another, Lauren, let's take a break from the wheel for a second to talk about this. So Lauren, that was the first and only time you saw Genesis, right? Was 92?
Right. Yeah.
And that was at the Sky Dome in Toronto?
Yeah.
Right on. And so Phil, you had mentioned about seeing Genesis in 78, but you said you saw him 3 times. Let's hear about that.
Yeah. So the first one was in 78. That was at the CNE when it was the full stadium. That was the
was that with Max Webster?
Yes, it was. Yes.
And
I was
Brand
gonna
X.
say that was the summer that they had all those festivals. There was one where the Who was the headliner. There was one with like the Beach Boys and Steve Miller. I don't know. There was another one that's escaping me right now, but there's the memory for you.
And I think Brand X opened for the Max.
Yes, that's right. They did. And I knew that, I did know that Phil was involved with Brand X and my buddies that went with me, which, Cody, Jamie. And I was trying to get Jamie to come on this tonight, but he couldn't make it. But yeah, so he was with me at that show, and him and my other friend Don, they were more familiar with Brand X than I was. I mean, I'd heard it, but it wasn't really my thing. So, but yeah, there was Brand X and there was Max Webster and whoever else was on the bill that day, whatever. But yeah, it was a good show, and the mirrors were really cool. It's funny when you go looking for. It's too bad there isn't more footage of that tour.
Yeah,
that you can find on YouTube. If I remember correctly, I think there's one over in Japan. I think it is.
Yeah,
and it looks like the stage is like 25 feet away from the crowd, type of a thing.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird. But the mirrors were really cool, and I remember I do remember in the middle of Ripples, they had lasers shining off all the mirrors and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. And back then, lasers weren't as commonplace as they are today in shows. So back then, it was like, holy crap, man, that's like a laser. That's like really cool. But anyway, yeah, and the mirrors and all. The next 2 times I saw him twice on the Duke tour, and one of them was at Maple Leaf Gardens, and then it was within a week or week or 2 weeks, they played in Buffalo at the Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo. So
Right.
I grew up in St. Catharines, so which was a great place to be because you had Toronto one way and you had Buffalo the other way. And
Yeah, that's a quick jaunt over the
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. It was a real quick trip. You know, that they would have shows in Niagara Falls every once in a while. I saw a couple of shows, saw Rush at the Niagara Falls Convention Center in 78, something like that. So yeah, it was
Cheers.
you know, Jamie and I were just talking about that you know, last week or 2 weeks ago. We went to go see Tool, and we were talking about how we oh dude, it was a fantastic show.
I was there.
Yeah, I know. It was great. You know, back in the day when we used to have, like, you know, a stack of concert tickets on our dresser in our bedroom, just like all in order. You go look at, okay, next week I got this, next week I got this, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, man. It was great being right in between Toronto and Buffalo. Yeah.
That's the way to live. Is music is the everything. Music makes the world go around, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Keeps you sane.
So I saw Genesis. I mean, naturally, I didn't see them a long time ago because I'm only 25. But I'm so glad that I got to see Genesis. I've seen all the solo members. I've seen Steve Hackett. I've seen Peter Gabriel. I've seen Phil Collins even on his own. But then I saw the official Genesis in November of 21 in Toronto. And you know what? Phil Collins' son, Nick Collins, was on stage playing drums, and he was fantastic. Like, he's like his dad reborn. He's a very good drummer, and he handled it like no problem, no flaws, no mistakes, nothing. Like, and you know, he wasn't even alive when, you know, the last Phil Collins album came out, right? Like, he's got it. Okay, he's a great drummer, and I was you know, Phil still sang good. I mean, I know he was in the chair. People say about him being in the chair, but you know what? He was singing good, and the rest of the band, with the stage lights and everything, it didn't matter if he was sitting on the roof. You know, it was so, like, the show was good. He sounded really good. His vocals were really good, and his son was playing great. Obviously, Tony and Mike and Daryl were great too. And actually, you were talking about the song "No Son of Mine" from the We Can't Dance album. That was one of the highlights of the show, was seeing them do that song. It was very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And you know, I mean, hey, it wasn't Genesis in 1973, but I can still say I saw my favorite band, right?
Yeah. And you know, and I totally get it, you know, why, you know, and I mean, it was one of the big tours of the year. I mean, it's not like they had trouble selling out anywhere they went. So I mean, there was still lots of people that wanted to go see him. And stuff like that. And I mean, the footage that I've watched, the stage and the lighting and all that just looked fantastic.
Yeah, it looked amazing. Yeah, for sure.
They had those big square things with all the lights in them.
Dominoes, right?
Yeah. And, oh, is that what they were? Oh, there you go. See, I never put that like that. Yeah, okay. But I mean, that's one thing about them, right? Is that they've always done really great, you know, stage shows with their lights and all that kind of thing. And you know, it wasn't for me. I got nothing against you know, Phil's son playing drums. I've got no doubt he's a great drummer, no doubt whatsoever. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate, the Chester situation, the bit of the fallout that happened there, but
Definitely.
whatever. Things happens with everybody. You know, everybody goes through stuff like that. But you know, the backup singers, I'm like, yeah, you know,
Yeah, like finishing the notes for him and stuff. Like,
yeah, you know.
I know, I cringed. I did.
But I understand, you know, I understand from their side of things, because I mean, Cody, and well, I mean, you know, because you play and I play. And I mean, I'm a fair bit older than you, but when you get to be my age, I mean, you don't just give up playing. You know, you don't. It's in your blood, and it's what you love doing. And it pisses me off actually when I see all these people commenting online about, oh, they must need the money. And it's not just Genesis, it's any band. It was like
Yeah.
when Christine McVie went back into Fleetwood Mac. Oh, she must need the money.
Yeah.
She
Hardly.
doesn't need the money, man. She
No.
misses it. And it's what she does. And so I totally get why they wanted to go out one more time. And
Absolutely.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am.
For the record, you mentioned Christine McVie. She wrote Songbird. She doesn't need any more money.
No,
She's all right.
Exactly.
And like as a musician, like if I go for extended periods of time without playing, I get depressed. Like I actually get like depressed. I get if I don't sit at the kit for like that's why I try to play every day. I mean, it doesn't necessarily always work out that way, but I try to play every day. But if I was to go over a week, which is like the worst thing I could possibly do without playing drums, I would literally feel it like mentally and emotionally.
I absolutely 100% understand. I totally do. Yeah.
So so we were on the We Can't Dance record.
Okay. So for me, I'm gonna put that down at the bottom, I'm afraid.
And in the D tier, in the D or the C.
Whatever the one the one at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, yeah.
All right. Well, Phil, you've made my next move very easy. All respect and love to you, brother.
Oh, he's moving it.
I'm moving it. My turn.
Okay.
I'm taking my one move. I have to move it. I'm sorry. I mean, it's one of my lesser favorites of the Phil Collins, so I'm not putting it up in S tier or anything like that. But I'm gonna move it to George. Can we move that to the B tier? I'm sorry, Phil.
Okay. It's all good.
Much love, man. I got to put that in B tier because there's albums that are just way worse than it that are going to be coming up, like
Well, there's allowed to be more than one in each tier, isn't there?
that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. But I wouldn't put it as low as From Genesis to Revelation. So I don't know. We'll see what comes up. But
All right. So that was your turn then?
yeah. My turn is just to move We Can't Dance up to the B section.
Okay.
If you got that, George.
So I'm going to move it to D. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that.
So that's what we're doing the rest of this video, eh? Is just taking turns moving the same record back and forth. Okay.
We fought like this last time with the Rush one.
So yeah, George, we're gonna bring We Can't Dance. My turn is bring it up to B. And again, sorry, Phil.
All right, spin.
All right, we're gonna spin it. And From Genesis to Revelation.
Oh,
Well, I like this album or some of it, but I mean, what can you say? They weren't even really a band yet. They were students. They were students learning how to write songs.
Yeah.
At the piano and with acoustic guitars, and that's fine. It shows a lot of promise. Gabriel already had a really nice voice.
Mm-hmm.
They sounded kind of good when they sang together. I think The Conqueror is a great song, and In the Wilderness is a great song. But it's got to be the bottom tier, I think. It's just not what they were going to become. But you know what I do have even earlier than that is when they were called Anon.
Oh.
This is Mike Rutherford, Anthony Phillips, and Richard McPhail. It's the
Nice.
band one of the bands they were in that joined forces with the Garden Wall, as we all know, to become Genesis. So that's their song Pennsylvania Flick House. Shot straight to the top of the charts. It's a nice little rarity there from the official fan club. But yeah, bottom tier From Genesis to Revelation.
That was a cool little that was a cool thing you just showed us though, Lauren.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, bottom tier, yeah, no one's gonna disagree with that. That's like a very first Yes album. Like, in fact, I think the Yes one might be better.
Well, the first Yes album is way better than the first Genesis album, in my opinion.
not Time and a Word though. Like Time and a Word is a whole other stratosphere. Like, but the first one, it's like these bands have these sort of like this type of music. These bands got better as they went on.
The first Yes album's great. It's got some seriously jazzy drumming from Bruford.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
oh yeah, it's not nearly as bad as from Genesis to Revelation. It's just not as good as they were going. Kind of like the same thing here, right?
they were a proper band at that point. Genesis wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are they now?
A defunct band.
X.
Oh, you mean Yes?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, well,
Oh,
we won't open that can of worms. But
which version?
it's
Yeah.
not the Yes I saw. I'll tell you that much.
Next time.
When, when did you see Yes?
Well, I saw them in 2002. It was Anderson, Squire, Wakeman, Howe, and White.
Nice.
So
I saw them in 79. I think
Tornado
70. It was
in the round.
it was the In the Round show. Was that Tormato or was
Yeah.
that going for the one? Tormato? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Maple
Yeah.
Leaf Gardens. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a good show.
Was that the only time you guys saw Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Yes twice.
You saw people who called themselves Yes, but anyway.
Oh, I saw Yes with Chris Squire. I saw Yes with Chris Squire at Hamilton Place. It was the first show with Benoit David, and that they had ever done. No, I never saw him with John Anderson. That's where you guys have the upper hand. But I saw them with Benoit David and Adam Wakeman and Alan White, Steve Howe, Chris Squire. So you still had that rhythm section there, right?
Yeah.
Next time I saw them, I mean, hey, you can say what you want, but I actually got to meet Billy Sherwood at the second time I saw Yes. So Chris Squire wasn't with them, but it was John Davison. It's the current Yes lineup. What's going on now? And you know what? It was actually a lot of fun. I met some of the guys in the band, and it was just really cool. I met Jeff Downs. I showed him my drama album and said, "This is my favorite record you ever played on." And he says, "I don't think you were even born yet when I made that record." And I said, "No, that's a great observation." But that's a nasty good record. Oh, anyway, we jumped ship a little bit there, but so whose turn was it now? I can't remember. I think it was Phil.
Okay. Well, I mean, I did We Can't Dance just before you.
Yeah, and then I moved it up, and then Lauren took a turn.
Oh, and I did from Genesis to Revelation.
Oh, so moving it takes your turn?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
All right.
Each
so-
person could do that just one time.
All right,
Okay.
we're spinning.
all right, let's get calling all stations out of the way.
Yes, please.
And calling all stations.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I have listened to this maybe 3 times. Calling all stations in Congo. I don't mind those songs. My biggest complaint about this album is they all sound the same to me. You know, it's hard to tell one from the other. They've all got the same kind of keyboard pads, you know, the way he plays, and they're all like the same tempo, or at least to me. I remember in one of the Genesis groups on Facebook, I made a comment about this, and somebody said, "Oh, you got to listen to it again." And I'm just like, yeah, okay. So I did, and it didn't change my opinion at all. So it's like, you know, it's not that it's necessarily it's not a horrible album. It's just not a good Genesis album.
No, it's a great Mike and the Mechanics album.
Yeah. But I did, you know, the thing is, and I did like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Congo was the single released off
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? And I remember hearing that when it came out, and I remember thinking, oh, I actually like that. That's not bad. And I don't, one of the complaints I've got about this is that Mike and Tony should have given Ray another shot with another album. I would have really liked to have been able to see, because I don't blame Ray in the slightest for the way this album came out, or
Ray was great,
fact-
actually.
What's that?
Ray was really good. Ray is one of the best parts of that album.
he's a good singer, and you know he comes across as a really good guy. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, in all the interviews or whatever that I've seen.
And he had impossible shoes to fill too.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, and I mean, I remember when the album came out, and I remember when they announced the tour, and I remember when the
When
tour
it was canceled.
or at
Yeah.
least the tour over here in North America.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, it's funny with everybody jumps on bands when they switch members about, oh, it's just a tribute band now and stuff like that. You know, they do that with Kiss, and they do that with Foreigner, and they were doing it with Guns N' Roses, and God, all the other ones. But I mean,
Kind of hard to call Genesis that when you still had the two original guys. Like
that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think you could really say that with Genesis, because Tony and Mike were always the main songwriters in that band. But they might have been the main songwriters, but they weren't the most popular guys in the band. You know, it was always Peter, and then it was Phil.
Yeah,
personality.
They were kind of the foundation. Which is one reason I was disappointed when I listened to that album. I mean, I didn't really have any expectations of it, because by that point in time, you know, I wasn't listening to new Genesis stuff. I will be the first one to admit that I'm stuck in the 70s. And I got no problem with that whatsoever. So, I mean, I wasn't going out of my way to listen to it, but I thought, well, you know, if Tony and Mike are there, I mean, that's basically the main songwriting team for the band anyway. But yeah, you know, so I was like,
You know what it was missing, though? I mean, apart from Phil's voice and drums, is his arranging. You know, Phil was the arranger of their music, and he was the one that said, let's take this bit here, put this here, let's speed that up, let's cut this. He played a huge role in how that music sounded. And once he was gone and Tony and Mike were left to their own devices, you know, and they bring in Ray, but he's just a guest practically.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't a proper band member, really. He didn't have much of a role in writing, you know, apart from one or two songs. It just was doomed, you know, and that's what.
Don't forget the drummer scenario too. Nick DiVirgilio playing on half of a song, and another guy, Nick Zerdeu or whatever, playing on the other half of the song, and just kind of like that, right? Like, yeah, I listened to that album last night, and it was actually cool. I really liked the song Shipwrecked, but I noticed that it didn't actually sound technically like Genesis till about 4 songs in.
Just to show what a freak I am, I bought all 3 of the European CD singles from that album so that I could get all the B-sides.
The B-sides are really good.
Because who doesn't need 7 more Calling All Stations songs?
That's actually cool, and I love that. Like I collect mainly records. I have all the CDs. I don't have those, but well, I didn't have enough time to pull them out. But I've got some of the We Can't Dance era singles. So like they have like the B-sides, like the live versions of Dreaming While You Sleep and stuff like that. Just pretty cool, because that's not common stuff. Like the 80s stuff, it's common. You can get all the singles on 45 anyway, in the records. You can get the 12 inches and the 45s of 86, 83, all that stuff with all the cool extended mixes on the other sides. But 90s Genesis, like We Can't Dance and Calling All Station stuff, now that stuff is really hard to come by on, you know, if it wasn't the official album. It's like this tape I have. You never see this around.
Oh, I've got that, or at least I used to have it. I don't know if I still do.
Yeah.
But
that's still the best. That's still the best documentary, I think.
It never got printed to DVD or anything. I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw bits of that Belgian TV special. Was in that documentary.
Yeah, and this came out in 1990, and then I guess it got re-released in 91. But it has both years mentioned on it. But it's cool. I don't have a VHS player to play it.
Yeah, have you got a VCR?
I do actually, but it's in storage somewhere, so
Oh.
I'll just find it on YouTube.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Nowadays, you
So
Now,
okay,
did you watch have you watched the live footage from Poland from the Calling All Stations tour? I'm assuming you've seen that. What did you think of that?
well, I thought it was okay. I thought, it was a bit strange though. They were doing the opening of Supper's Ready, and then
Yeah,
they were doing
the
Mama.
acoustic set.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
they did Mama, and then they did, something from Calling All Stations.
I must admit though, I liked the acoustic version of Follow You, Follow Me. I like that.
I
I
don't
do.
remember it now.
Yeah. I think Ray says it's a campfire song or something like that, if I remember correctly. But
The best version of that song was the single, the 45 vinyl single mix, which has never been officially released since, but it's very different. You look it up.
I'm sure I've heard it. What's different about it?
The whole mix is different. It starts like the way it starts differently. Phil's cymbals, there's louder guitar leading into the chorus. It's pretty cool. You should check it out.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I don't mind that song. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't even got to that album yet.
All right, we should be spinning.
That's a great album, and I can't wait for it to come up on the wheel. So maybe it'll be next.
Okay, so if I'm gonna place Calling All Stations anywhere,
Yes.
yeah, I'm gonna put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah, that is where that should be, and not Weekend Dance, Phil.
See, and I mean, I would, well,
Yeah. I'm just
maybe Weekend Dance was a bit, maybe that was a bit harsh for that one. Maybe it should have gone in the one up from that, but still.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. There's a lot of songs on it, and there's some good songs, right? There's some good tunes like No Son of Mine, great drumming, all that. But the songs like Since I Lost You, I know. And people always say, well, that's about Eric Clapton's son. You know what? That's really unfortunate that happened. But that song is not a great song. It's not. It's not. Anyway.
Anyway, all right, let's spin.
Yeah, let's give her a spin.
Who's next?
Mr. Me.
You? Okay.
Yeah. All right, George, let me know what it's. Foxtrot. Yeah. Woo! Oh yeah. I think by that reaction, you know that obviously D tier. Just kidding. It's going all the way up at the top. S tier. No questions asked. Supper's ready. Boom. No, Watcher of the Sky is like seeing Steve's band, seeing Mr. Steve Hackett, of course. This is the Premonitions box set of all of his solo albums up to a certain point, but he's been doing the Genesis Revisited stuff live, and that was his most recent endeavor on tour, was playing that whole album. And it's just perfect. It's just perfect. There's not even, I mean, I have to say that Timetable is probably my least favorite song on this album, but it's still a good song. It's not in the same league as Supper's Ready, but you know what? The chord changes in that are so cool that it's like it's worthy of staying on the record,
Yeah.
There's
not a bad song on the record.
No.
But some of them are not as great as other ones.
You get it. That's exactly accurate.
Yeah.
Other than that, all the other ones like Watch for the Skies, even the Horizons. I loved just the 1 minute guitar solo from Steve Hackett. If it was 5 minutes, 1 minute, 25 minutes, that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, it is only 1 minute, and it's a nice precursor to Supper's Ready, but it's just a great, beautiful little piece that. I don't know. I'm not a guitar player.
The best one, one of my favorites is Can Utility and the Coastliners with that middle section with the Mellotron and the heavy bass pedals. Really cool tune.
That's kind of the hidden gem for a lot of people in Genesis is that song. Yeah. Yeah.
And the first time I saw Steve's band, which was November 30th, 2015, he played that song, and Roy Stolt from Transatlantic and Flower Kings was on bass. that's one of the hardest bass songs because there's that middle part where it's like, and he nailed it. He nailed it. I mean, his hand probably almost fell off after, but he nailed it.
I was at that show, and my wife and I had a couple of beers beforehand, and I yelled out, "Roina Stoke for Prime Minister."
Well, I was at that show.
Steve said, "Roina Stoke for Prime Minister."
That was the first time I ever saw Steve solo, and that was, that was great. And but him playing that song, and that night he also did "Get Him Out by Friday" too, if you remember that, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
no,
I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that's one of the ones off Genesis Live, So
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. Are we going to talk about the live albums after we're done the studio albums at all? Or?
Sure. I'm down. We don't have a time limit. We can just go on.
Oh, okay.
I'm down. But Foxtrot is just a masterpiece. I mean, it's got to go up in the no. Oh, George, I was kidding when I said D tier. It's got to go up in the S, buddy. Sorry, I was making a joke. Sorry, George. It's actually an S tier. It's the cream of the crop, the top of the barrel. It's just an incredible album, and it like Rush, Genesis kind of came to me at the same time when I got into both bands, and it this music just totally changed the trajectory of my drumming path. It really did. I mean, I can't say anything that you haven't heard about this album. The Supper's Ready, my favorite Genesis song. Incredible. I love 20-minute songs.
You know what? One of the best parts of Supper's Ready that people don't talk about as much because they focus so much on the Apocalypse and 9/8 section is the one called, I think it's called Ichnaton and Itzikon and their Band of Merry Men, the third section, Waiting for Battle and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Fights begun, we've been released. That's an amazing section of music, and it doesn't get as much credit.
Yes, yeah. Steve's guitar in there is really good. Really.
Yeah.
Hey,
George, we just got to bring Foxtrot up to the S tier there, buddy. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that dual guitar thing that he does with like the guitar against the keyboards in that section, immaculate. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, we'll put Foxtrot up in the S tier. Perfect, and then we'll give her a spin for Lauren.
Trying to remember what's left.
And then there were 3.
Ah.
But there's 3 left after this one.
Gotcha.
So
And then there were 3. I love this album, actually. I know a lot of people think of it as a bit lesser because, Steve's gone, the songs are shorter. But I actually really love the songs on this album. I love the sound of it. It's a very moody record, and it doesn't really sound like any other one they ever did, I don't think. There's a lot of solo written pieces, which, people don't tend to think work as well as the band pieces like Down and Out. And but, if you think about songs like Burning Rope, Deep in the Motherlode, The Lady Lies, Undertow, those are great tracks. And
Down and Out, yeah.
My complaint about it is that I don't think it should have ended with Follow You, Follow Me. I think that should have been somewhere else in the album, and it should have ended with The Lady Lies, which has it's got a long fade out. It would be a great way to end the album because they usually always ended their albums on a really dramatic note, and that one doesn't. It just sort of peters out. But
like Peter Gabriel's out. Sorry.
But I also think that the song Ballad of Big is a bit of a B track.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Ballad of Big and Say It's All Right, Joe never did anything for me. I remember them playing that song.
Phil being the drunk.
Dressed up like the drunk with the little table and the lamp next to him. And it's just like, So I mean, even back then when it was the album they were touring, that wasn't my my favorite song that they did.
I like that one, but Ballad of Big was a bit of a stinker.
Yeah, and they did put that in their set list over in Europe. You can find some bootlegs, and they eventually dropped it. And I read that it was because Phil found it too hard to sing live, which is why they dropped it. Ballad of Big,
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that it would have been a better choice to put the song "The Day the Light Went Out."
Oh, yeah, that
instead.
was, yeah, I've heard that. Yep.
I like that song better. That's another Tony Banks one. He says it's the worst lyric he's ever written, but I don't mind it.
Love Ballad of Big. That blatant rhythm change after the verse into the hooky part. I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, they did that well for sure, and
it's not everyone.
It's got a great intro, but then it's kind of downhill after there for me. But I do have the original Target pressing of that West German 83 Target pressing, or 84 maybe.
Nice. Yeah,
and I always like the album cover for that album too.
I like it too. It's weird and
yeah,
dark, and it doesn't make much sense, but it's cool.
But it's cool. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly.
Hypnosis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only one to have a member of the band on the cover.
What's that?
I believe that is the only Genesis album to actually have a photo of a band member on the cover.
One of the band is on the cover?
Why? Okay, so that's news to me.
I've never heard that before.
If you look on the bottom left corner, there's a man kind of with a hat down over his face.
Yeah.
In the car. I think he's in a car, right?
Yeah, he's in a car.
No, Lauren, if you have the CD, can you hold it up against the...
I'll take the insert out.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before, Cody. I don't know. You're talking about that guy, right?
No, on the other side. There's a man with a jacket, with a coat and a hat. I believe that's Phil Collins.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I'm like fairly certain that's Phil Collins. So that would make that the only Genesis album to have a member of the band on the cover.
If it's true.
Up until that point.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, Seconds Out did, I guess, but you know.
Yeah,
Genesis Live.
Studio. I should say
first
live. And Genesis Live too. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I
should have clarified studio.
Yeah. But yeah, I like this album a lot. I won't put it in the S tier because I don't think it quite belongs there, but I think it's way better than it gets credit for, and I would put it in the second one.
The A tier is looking lonely. We need some friends in there.
Is that the only one in there?
It's like a whole bunch in the S tier and a bunch down below, but not much in the middle, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not subjective enough.
Maybe.
So A tier for and then there were 3?
Yeah, A. Yeah.
A. All right. You can tell we're Canadian, eh?
A, Mr. Cocktail.
All right. Thank you, George. And now let's spin for Phil.
Abacav. Well, I do like the title track. I do. Overall, this album does pretty much nothing for me. I like Abacav. No Reply at All, to me, is everything that's wrong with Genesis. You know, I apologize to any 80s Genesis fans that are out there listening, but for an old guy like me, that's not the kind of thing I want to hear from the band that I grew up with. I understand why they ended up going, you know, more in the direction they went, which is fine. You know, I mean, I don't listen to the same stuff that I listened to 25 years ago, you know? So, but yeah, No Reply at All was just like, ugh. It didn't do anything for me. You know, some of the, you know, Dodo, Lurker, you know, not bad. What else is on there?
Who done it?
Maybe Keep It Dark, maybe. But, you know, Man on the Corner. I went to go see a Genesis tribute band It was either in Niagara Falls, New York, or Buffalo a couple of years ago. And they did this tour, and they did Man on the Corner. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is the one where I, go out to the snack bar. It was, yeah, I just, like I say, Abacab is the only song I can genuinely say, I like that song, because I do like that song. But the rest of them are just like, no, I could easily do without it.
Know Me and Sarah Jane?
No, not really.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
No.
What about Who Done It? I know everyone likes that song.
The worst thing about Who Done It is the fact that they left off the best song they wrote in those sessions, which is a song called You Might Recall.
Yes.
That was a contender for the album, but they went with Who Done It instead. And like, guys, like,
well, there must have been something about it because they did it live when they
toured
that album, right?
So, yeah, to a chorus of boos when they played in Holland. You've ever heard that show? There's a show.
Maybe.
There's a bootleg from. It's called the title of it is called The Booing Concert, and and Phil gets pissed because it's in Leiden, Holland, and they whenever they played the new songs from Abacab, because it was that tour, people would boo like strongly, and they weren't used to that, and Phil got really mad. You can hear him. You check that one out sometime just for fun.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Title track though, live. It's a bit too long on the record. I know I just said like I'm great with 20-minute songs. I love that, but the title track on the record is really long. But when they play it live, like 3 sides live, excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
I like 3 sides live. I also like Me and Sarah Jane. I think it's one of those ones, like it's a Tony Banks piece and it goes through different stages. It's kind of it's like a mini epic.
Yeah, it's like
some ways.
5 minutes of like, yeah.
But yeah, that album, it kind of falls apart. It starts strongly, but it ends poorly.
It's almost like it doesn't really know. Like I really like the album. I personally have it in my own B tier. I don't know where you want to put it, Phil, but as much as I like the album, it's got a lot of great songs, but it's kind of like it doesn't know where it wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, for me that I mean, yeah, thinking about my my placement of Can't Dance, this is definitely lower down than that one. So I probably was too harsh on that one because for me, this is definitely one of my least favorites. So I would put this at the bottom for me.
It's got really good sound though, like just a song apart from the songs, like the production on it is really good.
Yeah.
It's got the drums sound really sharp on it. It
was the first one they had Hugh Padgham producing, I think. Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
So
you wanted to put that one in D there, Phil?
Yeah, sorry, man. Unless somebody wants to, pull it out and use their turn.
I'm not gonna die on that hill.
I won't die on it either. I mean, but I already used my turn, so I can't.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not gonna fight over Abacab.
Yeah.
We'll just say this. I had it sitting right over here from a previous video, but I guess I moved it. But I was just gonna hold it up, be like, I've got the vinyl, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't matter. It's just a stupid thing.
See, and it, honestly, and it surprises me. I don't know if maybe surprises me isn't the right way of putting it. But I mean, I like the one that came out after that because I did the Shapes album before.
Yeah.
And I like that album, but it came out after this one.
It's better though. I think by then they had just like when Cody was saying that they, Abacab, they wasn't sure where they wanted to go. I think with the Genesis album, they did. I think they kind of solidified that sound. They went, okay, now let's write some good songs.
Yeah.
To fall into that sound.
All right. So we're down to 2 more records and it's my turn. So we've only got A Trick of the Tail and Trespass left. And I know which one that I'm hoping that the wheel tells me I get to have. if you can spin the wheel. I love the background that we got here, by the way.
Elephants.
Nice, thank God. Yes, thank you, heavens. Oh, yeah, S tier, S tier. I know our S tier is really full. I got to throw it in there anyway. That is a classic. That's an incredible album.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ripples, Dance on a Volcano, Entangled, Squonk. I
Sandos.
Los Endos, yeah, and even the song, even the title track is great. Madman Moon, I think I listened.
Madman Moon.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, me too.
God, that is such a great track. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
So straight to the S tier for that one.
Yeah, what can you say? You know, the song that they left off that one called "It's Yourself." That's another favorite of mine. That's a beautiful track.
Because that was that goes into Los Endos, right?
Yeah, it's got that sound
Yeah,
that trails
yeah.
in. Yeah, because it was going to be that way originally, but it was too long. The album would have been too long, so they had to cut something. So they cut that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's S tier. That's S tier, and I don't think anyone will have an issue with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no
No,
argument there.
That might be my favorite album of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's Selling England is mine, but I would not be confused if you told me that was your favorite Genesis album, because it's amazing.
Selling England, it's kind of a similar album in some ways. You got the Lamb in between them, but the Lamb is very different. Trick of the Tail kind of goes back a little bit to the Selling England,
yeah,
the English pastoral sort of thing. And Trick of the Tail wins for me because Selling England has more Fool Me, and Trick of the Tail doesn't.
yeah, the great album anyway. S tier for sure. Now the last one, you guys take your pick. Who wants to do Trespass?
Trespass?
Yeah,
Well,
Lauren, do you want to take it?
Yeah,
sure.
you do, Lauren. Go ahead.
Well, I like it a lot actually. It's hard to place it though because it's way better than From Genesis to Revelation, but it's not as good as Nursery Cryme for me. I love Anthony Phillips. I'm a big Anthony Phillips fan, and I love White Mountain, Looking for Someone, Stagnation, The Knife. It's a great album. This is the last time I get to do this, so here's my weird little Japanese not for sale promo Virgin Records copy of Trespass, where inside they credit the band to having Phil Collins and Steve Hackett.
What, really? That's cool.
Yeah. Where would I put Trespass? It's hard to say. What's in A right now? I'm not looking at this wheel.
A only has the self-titled 1983, and then there were 3.
Okay, I'll put it in there, I think, because I like it a lot, and I think it was very good. I think it had some great moments on there, like the second half of Looking for Someone with Banks's keyboard part is the organ part is really great, and Stagnation is a classic.
I had it low on my list, but you know what? It does have Stagnation, and it has The Knife. So if you want to put it in the A tier, yeah,
I think I would put it in A. I think it's worth something.
Well, there we go. We've officially done all the studio albums. We've
see, and looking at the list and where they're ranked right now, it makes sense. It seems pretty reasonable where everything has been placed.
Are you guys aware that we've just tackled one of the hardest jobs as Genesis fans? Is ranking the albums, and we just did it no problem.
I don't know, it wasn't that hard for me.
Yeah, I mean, my favorites are up in the top because I Trick and Wind are my 2 favorites. Hands down, my 2 favorites. And then probably The Lamb and Selling England after that. So yeah.
I mean, it's probably Trick of the Tail, Nursery Cryme, and Duke, I think, are my 3 favorites.
Yeah, Duke, I think it's because misunderstanding. I was like, that's even more AM top 40 than Follow You, Follow Me.
It is, as far as like the sort of verse chorus structure goes, it is, but it's got a great little steady groove to it, sort of like, Hold the Line by Toto, or
I see that.
Rocky Mountain Way. It's got that sort of, to me, that's what it sounds like. It's the same kind of beat. I like Misunderstanding well enough, but I can take it or leave it. It's not why I listen to Duke.
It's got the shuffle groove. That's what you're thinking.
Shuffle, right? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good album. And while we're talking about good albums, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Peter Gabriel's new record that just came out. Have you guys listened to this? I mean, Lauren, I said you said you have, right?
I have not. No.
Phil, this album is so good. I'm not kidding you. I mean, hey, maybe it's not, So or Security, but it's pretty darn close to So. It's a really, really good record. It's called I.O. And if anyone watching this hasn't heard this yet, should definitely go check it out, because it's a pretty fantastic album, actually. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the first two Gabriel solo. Out of all the guys in the band, Gabriel, even though I've seen Hackett seven times now, something like that, I enjoyed. I don't get into his solo stuff as much as other people do. I like it. He puts out an awful lot of stuff, man. That guy writes a boatload of tunes. But the first two Gabriel solo albums for me were just stellar. The only time I've seen him was, I think it was at Kleinhans. I think it was Kleinhans or in Buffalo, and it was just as with, I think it was when the third album came out. It might have been. He did I Go Swimming. Which album's I Go Swimming off?
It's not on an album, but
it's not. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's from that. It's from that era.
But anyway, it's from that era, and my Peter Gabriel story is I rubbed his head. He I wasn't used to seeing him with a shaved head. And I think it was during I Go Swimming. It's the theater was similar to a Massey Hall type of a setup, where you've got an aisle coming down, one way, and an aisle coming in the other way. And he went running down the aisle, and he went out in the lobby, and he came back through the other door so that he could go back up the stage. And it was the last song. And Jamie was with me, and he'll probably laugh when he's watching this because he'll remember it. And so we got up so that we could make a dash, but we wanted to see the song. So we're standing by the door, and Gabriel comes in, and he's singing, and he's standing right next to me. And he had shaved his head, and it had all this little tiny stubble on it. And I just kind of looked at him, I rubbed it off of his, and he just kind of looked over at me with a cocked eye and like, what the fuck?
Well, Mike told us the story actually last week about you, Phil. Mike told us the story on the Rush stream that we did last week. I guess when you guys had done the St. Catharines thing, and Terry Brown was there, the Rush producer.
Oh yeah.
You didn't know who he was, I guess. I don't know. And Mike says, Phil, Terry's talking to us, and he goes, so what did you guys think of the album? And Phil goes, I didn't think the guitar was mixed loud enough on it.
Signals. Yeah. And I said that to him, and he just kind of laughed. And I said, hey, see, the thing is, Signals is my favorite Rush album, but the guitar needs to be a bit louder, But I wish I could have been on the one you guys did on Rush last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. But
it was fun.
But anyway,
I'll have to revisit it one day.
Yeah.
See if our opinions.
Yeah, but I knew that's what you were going to say.
Well,
after we left, he says, I can't believe you said that to him. I said, why? I told him it was my favorite album. I love it. you know. But yeah. Anyway,
It's one of those like talking to Terry Brown. It's like one of those like you had one job, like you had one job, bro. Turn the guitars up. That was your job, and you didn't fucking do it.
yeah. Oh well. It
Oh,
doesn't matter. It's still my favorite studio album of theirs.
Well, the guitar sounds great on Analog Kid.
oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it landed in the A tier on the Rush video. The
Oh
signature.
yeah. It wasn't as high as it should have been. I think that's what I said at the end of that video. I said I agree with it all, but Signals should have been higher.
Mm.
And so we wanted to talk just a bit briefly before we end the stream here. We were going to mention about the live albums, right?
Mm.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to go first with this,
Yeah, you know, the first Genesis live album, it was, you know, God, the number of times I listened to that, and you know, the same with Seconds Out. I mean, those are the two for me.
yeah.
You know, I could, you know, Desert Island discs, they really are. They really are.
First time I had Genesis live, the first time I owned it was on cassette because the guy I went to school with was painting. He was doing an oil painting on my jean jacket of the Nursery Cryme cover. And yeah, I was the cool guy that had the Nursery Cryme jean jacket in high school. Everyone else was listening to Guns N' Roses and the Cult.
Guns N' Roses, yeah.
But he was taking a really long time, and I kept complaining, you know, saying, "Where's my jacket?" And so he said, "Well, here, have this while you wait." And he gave me Genesis Live, and that was the first time I ever had that. And I wore that tape out in my Walkman. I listened to it so much. You know, that version of Musical Box, Hogweed, Get 'Em Up by Friday, Watch of the Skies, like that's brilliant. Brilliant.
It is brilliant.
And yeah, it should have been a double, but I think at the time, the reason that everyone always says, well, why wasn't Supper's Ready on it? But they had only just released Supper's Ready the year before. And I think they said they didn't want to have another side-long piece, you know, on the next album. They wanted to keep it kind of short and simple. I mean, in retrospect, maybe it wasn't the right move, but
yeah. How about Three Sides Live?
I love Three Sides Live personally.
I want to take a moment here. I'm sorry, guys. I just pulled these out. I actually won these because when I saw Genesis, I did the VIP thing where we had the dinner and stuff up at the top of the Scotiabank Arena, and we got to play this game. And it was a Genesis trivia game, and I got every question correct. And one of my winning prizes, the actual, I studied up. Let's just say that, but. One of the winning prizes was the actual drumsticks that Nick Collins had played in the Montreal show. And this is the actual sticks he played. I just wanted to show that. Sorry. Continue on with Three Sides Live.
So I was just I'm going to show one last thing. I said I didn't get to show this in the Rush video, but this was my postcard from Neil Peart.
Yeah.
He sent me in 92. And the reason I'm showing it in this video is because I asked him about Genesis. You know, I was only 19 or 18 at the time. And I said, you know, so instead of asking something with some depth to it, I went, "Hey, Neil, do you like Genesis?" But
I would have done the same at that.
Thankfully, he answered it anyway. And
yeah, you know, I'm sure that he probably gets asked a lot of questions like, "Oh God, this again."
Yeah, I know.
I want to answer this question. So something like that was probably like, oh, you know,
yeah,
a music fan type of a question as opposed to, you know, a musician like, why did you play this like this? How come you did this like this? Or
yeah,
it was probably
was that an 18-inch bass drum you used on?
Exactly. Yeah. See, Mike is into all of that stuff with all the different drum sizes and all that kind of stuff. Oh, well, on this tour, he used this. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure. You know, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the size of Phil Collins' snare drum. I'm just going to tell you that. But yeah, Three Sides Live, and I got the DVD for that. When I first got into Genesis, I picked up that DVD, and I watched them playing In the Cage. And Tony Banks, I kid you not, he's ripping that awesome solo where they're doing the cinema show part at the end.
Yeah.
He's one hand just chilling on his leg, and the other hand just doing like this most bizarre, insane shit on the keyboard. It's like, I can't even think that fast. Like, how are you playing? How are
Those
you
live
playing with both hands?
those live versions of In the Cage are amazing from that.
Yeah, and that to
Yeah.
me, that's the highlight of that album for me, because in the Cage is a great song. And
Mhm.
you know, I mean, as much, I will never understand why in so many Genesis forums people crap all over Daryl Sturman and say he's a crappy guitar player.
People say that?
Oh yeah, man. You go on YouTube and you read some of the comments, it's like,
Uh,
that guy is not even close to being a crappy guitar player. He's an amazing guitar player.
keyboard
But
warriors.
you know, they just don't like the fact that it's not Steve, and
Yeah.
he's not playing Steve's parts the way that Steve played them.
Mhm.
But the guy, I mean, he's kind of like Ray. He couldn't win either. I mean, when he went in, I think I read somewhere that they told him, you don't have to copy the stuff exactly the way it was before. I'm sure I read that somewhere before.
Mhm.
But I mean, even if he would have copied it exact, people would still dump all over him because, you know,
They say he's
you know,
he's copying.
but
him.
but personally, I love the way he plays In the Cage. He
Oh
just
yeah,
kills that song.
and
You
Chester
know,
Thompson too.
oh, just rips on it. It sounds fantastic. There's the 78 Chicago, what is it? The Uptown
Uptown
Theater.
Theater, yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what a great bootleg that is.
Yeah.
Great bootleg.
I had that vinyl when I was a teenager. It was
From
called
the Mouth of the
From
Monster.
the Mouth of the
Right?
Monster. That's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bought that in Oakville at right at the corner of Kerr and Lakeshore. There's a record store. It's still there, but at the time it was Records on Wheels.
Oh, okay.
And they had it downstairs, and that's where all the vinyl bootlegs were and
Yeah.
all the Genesis
Yeah,
ones.
I've still got it over there in my vinyl pile.
Yeah.
But I was the one thing I didn't like about that was the songs weren't in order.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I mean, back then you didn't have setlist.com or any of those kind of places. It was like, yeah, I don't know what the actual order was supposed to be. So I remember when I first found it on YouTube and I downloaded it in the original running order, and it was like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's a great show. And to me, that's a definite Sturmer highlight for me is In the Cage.
Sturmer is a great guitarist. He played
Oh,
with
he is.
he used to play with Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
got some credibility.
Yeah.
The other
Oh,
thing I wanted to say about In the Cage was just that when Banks goes into that keyboard part Cody was talking about when he's doing the cinema show, and then and Colony of Slippermen, and then he goes into, have you ever noticed the section of riding the scree, but they play it at like double or triple time. It's just one little section of riding the scree, but if you listen to it, it's sped up like crazy. And I don't know if people pick up on that or not, that's what that is. They might just think it's part of That's the one. And then
that part? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, let me go back one live album to Seconds Out. What do you think of, compare the version of Supper's Ready on Seconds Out to the original studio version?
That's a hard question.
It is.
Both are S tier for me personally.
Well, yeah, I love them both.
Yeah.
I love the insanity that Phil Collins puts into it with those psychotic laughs he does, and
and Willow Farm.
Willow Farm.
Willow Farm,
yeah. See, I must say I prefer the Seconds Out version. You know, maybe part of it is because, you know, like I say, live album. I love live albums. I just love live albums. There's just something about a band playing live, which is, you know,
and they were a live band.
You know, it's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Phil.
yeah.
So live albums are awesome.
And that live Blink, that Mark, Tom, and Travis show, I need you to try and help me find that live
He's a big Blink 182 fan, and so there's a live album he's looking for by them. Live music is just
99. Oh, it's funny. I can't believe I was listening to that when I was like 9 years old. The stuff they said on that stage is crazy.
But then the end of Supper's Ready on Seconds Out, they drop it down a whole tone.
They do, and they
slow it down.
And you know that got worse. as they played because they brought it back at the beginning of the Invisible Touch tour. They added the whole Apocalypse and then the ending to the In the Cage medley instead of Afterglow, and they really slowed it down there.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound right.
But it sound, I mean, to me, the Seconds Out version, to me, it sounds way more majestic.
Yeah, there's something
It's
about it.
just
Isn't
got
there?
something, you know, the dropping it down. I think the original one in that section was in A, and they drop it down to a G, and it's just at a bit slower tempo, and it just like, oh yeah. I loved it when they did. I don't know whose idea in the band it was to do that, but for me, it was brilliant.
Well, usually
It is brilliant.
when you drop a key, it's the singer that wants it, right?
Yeah.
I know Phil.
Well, and when they originally were touring with Trick, the first tour without Peter,
Mhm.
Phil was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing Supper's Ready." It took them like at least half the tour or something before they put Supper's Ready into the set list because he's like, "Yeah, you know," he was scared. He was scared to sing that song because he's like, "Oh man, everybody associates that song with him. I can't do it justice."
Seconds Out is my favorite live album of all time. There's probably not even any question. I think that's my number one live album ever. And
Seconds Out.
Yeah. And Three Sides Live, Genesis Live is great too. We're gonna have to bring this home a little bit here, but I want to talk. I'm gonna want to talk about just the last two live albums that Genesis did, which was the Way We Walk in '92. There was the Shorts and the Longs, and then there was Live Over Europe 2007. Now, to go to the live The Way We Walk, they did the whole old medley there, the 20 minutes of Nursery Cryme songs and Selling England songs and the Lamb songs, and then they did all the long songs from We Can't Dance. So it wasn't like it was just some big pop song extravaganza. It was like they were playing long tunes throughout this whole tour. Are you guys fans of that?
That's the tour I saw. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like that one because I have memories of seeing that show.
I have the original vinyl records of both those, the Shorts and the Longs.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember when they came out. I went out and bought the Longs, and I liked it. It was good. It was a while before I went out and bought the other one. You know, because and I only bought it because I thought, yeah, I should probably buy that one too. So I ended up buying that one, but the Longs was when I had when it first came out and I had my choice, it was the Longs that I went with.
Yeah,
good call. But you end up getting them both because it's the companions, right?
I did end up getting them both, yeah, because I thought you can't have one without the other.
And they ended up putting them together when they brought out those boxes in 2007. They made it the proper concert the way it was, but
and they put the track list in proper running order and everything. That was What about Live Over Europe 07?
Meh.
Yeah.
Don't like it? I do.
No,
I like it.
I never bought it.
The ripples on it.
You know, because I remember when they announced that tour, and I was so excited because the rumors going around was going to be, Peter and Steve were going to be in with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they announced, they did the press conference or whatever it was back. I don't remember now, and then it was like, it's the 3-man version.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a missed opportunity that was, And then when, the Sum of the Parts thing came out, I think it was the Sum of the Parts that kind of came up, and Steve has said a number of times that he'd be up for it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me I was so disappointed when that tour happened and Peter and Steve weren't involved. So, and they played here in Toronto, they played at BMO Field. I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many times too where classic members leave bands and come back. Like, look at what just happened with Mike Portnoy in Dream Theater. He didn't return to Dream Theater after 13 years, and there's no way they're not going to be playing Mike Mangini era songs. So it's like Steve Hackett would have, and Steve is such a cool guy. From the times I've talked to him, he probably would have played some of the 80s songs on stage with them. Or he would have been cool to just kind of go off backstage and come back for the classic, the 70s songs, right? So like there's no way that they could not have made that work. And I mean, it probably would have been an expense, but it would have worked. They could have done it, the money's never been a problem for that band anyway. And
it came down to whether Gabriel wanted to do it or not.
yeah,
and he's the one that backed out of it.
The Hackett factor is really nothing because
yeah,
what are they going to do? Like they could do the 4-piece stuff, but that doesn't have a big enough audience. Like we all like that, but
yeah. And Gabriel it is still to this day. I mean, I'm surprised, love this album. I'm surprised I'm holding it because he's hard to pin down, right? And it's kind of like it took 21 years to get this album.
Yeah.
He's only toured a handful of times in that 20 years. I've managed to see him twice in that 20 years, but so the fact that he was hard to pin down for the Genesis show is not surprising.
Yeah.
But he's incredible. And if you get the chance to see him live, even today, I'd recommend anyone go do it.
Oh, I've seen him.
Oh yeah, I know. I know we've all seen him, right?
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was a lot of fun.
This was a good one.
This was a lot of fun. Yeah, we dug really deep, and I love talking about Genesis, and that's why we did it, right? This is just
exactly.
This is
We're gonna do Yes next.
Should we do Yes next? Phil, do you want to do a Yes one with us?
I don't know my Yes like I know my Genesis. Yes and Genesis seem to get into the Beatles or the Stones type of arguments with people, right? And I was always more on the Genesis side. I saw Yes. I got a handful of albums, but I don't know them well enough to dive into this kind of a conversation.
Who else would you know as well?
I could who else would I do? I could do Zeppelin or Aerosmith.
Okay, I love those bands too.
Those were, Genesis, Aerosmith, Zeppelin back in the 70s. Genesis, they were
my Tull.
Tull?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think the band's going to have a larger catalog than Zeppelin. I mean, I know they have 8 albums, but they're all going to be in the S tier, right? So like we know they're all.
We can do the best Zeppelin songs of all. You can do a song tier list.
That's true. We could do a songs list, right?
Yeah, we could.
Well, we'll have to talk about that in the Ontarians group chat, and for the viewers, we'll figure it out, and we'll come back to you.
For anyone who's still with us, wow.
For anyone, yeah, we still have some people watching, and of course, some people will jump on later and watch, right? But hey, you know what? On behalf of all of us, we really appreciate you coming to watch us tonight, and maybe you didn't have much better to do than talk about Genesis with us on a Saturday night, right?
It's not a bad thing to do.
That's not a bad thing to do at all. We're talking about the greatest band, arguably the greatest band ever, my favorite band.
What I would have done anyway, it just wouldn't have been with you guys.
So?
All right.
Well, hey guys. Well, thank you so much, Phil, Lauren, and George for making this all happen with us here on Broadway's Vinyl Bites. Woohoo! Thank you guys for coming out.
Good times.
All right.
Good times, and great fun, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right. I hope you come back too, Phil.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Drag him by the hair.